in terms of our response to aging, it has not always been so structured or so focused, not until about 5 years ago, really, you know. And although these are some of the issues that's been brewing, I think all of you are pretty familiar with, that this is what we see, what the implications are. The issues are brewing. I think as a response to all these issues, it didn't really happen perhaps until 5 years ago. And there has been some trigger points as to how this happened. Like one example, one trigger point that we're all very aware of in Singapore is that the hospital, the acute care hospital, became very jammed. There was a crunch in the hospital bed because the hospital was having difficulty discharging its patients back home. And a lot of these patients are the older persons themselves. And that actually rings an alarm bell, you know, to the society and to our government. The other trigger point was really the long queue for nursing homes. People had to wait for like up to 2 years to get into a nursing home. And that was also a trigger. There was an alarm bell. What is happening? Why is this happening? And I think with that, that we realize as a society, as a government, I think we realize that we really need to sit down and look at what can we do, what do we do about this issue. We can't keep building more hospitals, for instance. We can't keep building more nursing homes, for instance. And what about the financing? You know, so I think that was the push, you know, for us to really take a look at how to address all these issues that's been brewing, that's been creeping up in our society. Okay. And I think one of the first things that got shifted was really this whole idea of, instead of looking at the aging issues, aging population, as a silver tsunami, and we all know tsunamis are very destructive, right? It's a very destructive force, that need to be that major paradigm shift to look at aging as a celebration of longevity. I think as Dr. Gills mentioned earlier, you know, that it is a success. You know, longevity is our hard-earned success, actually, society's hard-earned success. So how do we turn that around? How do we have a completely different mindset, instead of looking at aging as a tsunami, to look at it as you know, as developmental, as a celebration of our success. Okay, so that was really the first step that our government needed to take. And with that, actually, what happened was this was formulated, I think about 2 years ago now, you know, this action plan for successful aging. And if you look at this action plan for successful aging, it really covers a lot of different aspects. It's very much a whole community, whole society approach to managing these issues. And it's not just on healthcare. It is very much about healthcare, but it is very much on all the other aspects like transport, work, for instance. So what I want to do is, this you can find out on the website, under the Ministry of Health website in Singapore. They have this plan, you know, there is a document on this plan, so you can read up about it. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but what I want to share is really what are the underlying approaches, you know, to this plan, to what we have been doing. And some of these underlying approaches is very much the focus on aging in place, which means aging in the community. Not building institutions, but aging in the community. And for that to happen, for aging in place to happen, aging within the community to happen, a lot of other things needs to happen, right? One, I think what we've done, first of all, is really to restructure the entire healthcare system. There's now a focus on developing a regional health cluster. So the hospital, the acute care hospital, don't work by itself alone. It tries to get itself connected to the entire ecosystem of care system within the community. Because for aging in place to happen, an ecosystem needs to be built. And that ecosystem is not just a hospital alone, but very much a connection with the entire community, with the social care, with the families, with volunteers. All the dots needs to be joined. So that is a very major part of to enable aging in place to happen. It's joining the dots, it's creating this health, psychosocial care ecosystem to happen. So that is one approach that that we have been used. And with this, of course, come integration, right? Integration would become really, really important. The other focus is, the other approach is, instead of focusing on healthcare, to focus on health. Healthcare is really, usually when we talk about healthcare, it's very much about remedial care, about acute care. But when we want to focus on health, we are really looking at very much from a more preventive perspective. So focusing on healthcare is another very important approach that we try to undertake, you know, in either it's through health promotion, through the development of self-care capabilities particularly among the families, among the older person. So the focus on health rather than healthcare. And I think the other approach that we have taken is this really population aging, looking at it from a big data perspective. And so with this, what we've tried to do is very much to promote a community finding kind of approach, which means that really we want to understand the health of the entire population. If we want to understand the health of the entire population, we need the data, we need to do the outreach, we need to be able to understand, you know, to know, for instance, who are the older people in that community, and what do that group of older people look like, what are their needs, you know, what are their needs, what are their challenges, what are their wants. So with that, actually what the Ministry of Health have started was this whole entire system called the Community Network for Seniors, which is really a network that utilizes volunteers to do house knocking to every older person in Singapore, anybody who is, I think with effect from April, where anybody 60 and above really, to do this house knocking, to visit them and find out who are they, what are they like, what do they need, you know, so basically from that and using the data gathered to then do more appropriate planning. So those are some of the approaches that we have been utilized, that we are trying to incorporate into this whole action plan for successful aging. And actually on the ground, there has been many projects, you know, looking at basically developing community-based care. For instance, in the South Foundation, we have a project in one neighborhood in Singapore of about 41,000 people called the Community for Successful Aging, where we try and put together community development together with building care system, a sustainable, integrated care system for the older population living in that area. So these are some of the things that we've been doing. And of course, with doing all this, there's always challenges, right? So some of the challenges and some of these challenges that we are still kind of cracking our head on would really be the whole issue around financing, especially financing on long-term care financing. You know, the role of the family, you know, what role does the family play within this whole aged care sector? What about the role of the older person? I think you hear from the other speakers, and as well in Singapore, issues of social isolation, depression are surfacing, and that really, you know, is really due to a cause of loss of connection, loss of meaning and role within the society for an older person, you know. And so what role going forth, you know, as we age, as society becomes super aged society, what is the role of an older person within that society, this role and the meaning? I think that's really important. So those are some of the challenges that we have. And of course, the whole mindset shifting. You know, it's important that every sector in the society needs to change its mindset, needs to shift its mindset around how they look at an older person, how they look at aging, for instance. So that is a real challenge for us. And the other one is, of course, the role of the public-private sector as well as that of the civic society. How do all the three come together to provide, to build this ecosystem, you know, and a society for a super aged? You know, so those are the challenges that we are facing. We are still very kind of young on this journey because, like I said, it was not really until like 5 years ago that we started seriously looking at it and seriously planning what we can do about it. you know. So, so it's been very exciting in Singapore from that perspective, because a lot of development, a lot of things are happening, you know, in this whole sector, in aged care and in healthcare as well. The other challenge really is also the manpower, right? Manpower training. How do we get enough manpower to populate all this? In Singapore, for instance, there's been a lot of development around the role of nurses as well, that to move the nurses into the community and for them to be driving community-based healthcare projects, for instance, or healthcare programs. So that would be one area. The other area that we have not yet kind of come to any kind of plan is really around work. You know, as we mentioned earlier, right, that OH dependency ratio, the shrinking labor force, but really down the road we need to know how we want to redesign the whole work landscape. You know, how do we design the whole work landscape? How do we include older people in the workforce? You know, they do have a role to play, but what is that role? You know, I think we have not yet come to any conclusion on that, but that would be really, really significant, right, for active aging to happen, for instance. And all the other slides I have, that's basically all I have. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Pei Kim Chu, for that presentation. Before our next speaker, I'd just like to mention that all of our speakers have agreed to share their presentations. We'll put it on the website. So I see some of you taking photos there, so don't worry, we'll be able to get those to you. So thank you. Our next speaker, we're very honored to have Dr. Yoshi Obayashi from Hokkaido University. Without further ado, please.
Thank you, Richard, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really an honor to have an opportunity to present the conference, and I would like to start with the current situation of the aging in Japan. So, as you know, Japan aging is the rate of one of the highest ones in the world. And as of the last year, as you can see, the rate of the age over 65 is approaching the 30%, 27.7. And aging is one of the most critical social issues in Japan, and together with the low fertility rate issues. And some prediction says by the year 2065, sorry, okay. So 1 in 2.6 the people will be the 65 and above, and 1 in 4 will be the 75 above, right? And also, even the 2015 years, 3 years back, our working population rate is compared to the elderly population, 2.3% working population is per elderly people. And the prediction says that in 2065, only the 1.3 working population were caring about the elderly population. So over the 70 years more, the health system development achieved the kind of the level of healthcare system in Japan. One of the positive outcome is the extension of the higher life expectancy, and this is one of the positive feedback of our achievement. But on the contrary, that kind of the things that leads to the kind of the higher medical expenditures, and also maybe the social, maybe security budget issues are rising up, along with the aging rate is increasing, right? So in order to tackle with those issues, the Japanese government initiate the kind of the guideline for major for the aging society in Japan. And the most important concept of that guideline is the second line of this one. So determining 65 years plus is as older people is no longer the realistic definition of the elders. So we have to think about that. So by thinking about maybe more participation of the elders, so basic principle is three there. First one is creating age-free society, and the second thing is developing a community, and also third thing is maybe implementation of the technological matter in the aging society. So there are many factors of the basic measure for the guideline for that. So we pick up the several items. For example, the working style shift, like kind of the elders for the promote the part-time jobs or side jobs, or some kind of starting some new business or new board. And also regarding health insurance system, the government start to discuss about the kind of to prolong the starting age of the pension from 65 age to 70. So that kind of things also. And this kind of the guideline also strongly related to the government national strategy that we call dynamic engagement of all citizens in Japan. So we may think about that. So, and guidelines also include kind of several numerical targets to achieve that kind of to overcome the aging issue in Japan. There's several examples there. So like kind of increasing the social participation of the elders, is also kind of the prolonging the healthy life expectancy, and also the mitigating kind of the burden of the caregiver, and also kind of the advocate of the knowledge about the dementia to support from the general public, and also the generating the market or kind of the new business or new industry for the kind of the caregiving robotics or some technologies. So that kind of the measure, some numerical target also implemented that guideline. So let me look at the kind of the concept of the community development of the guideline or Japanese system of health, the elderly health care. We implemented kind of we call the community-based integrated system. And here's a conceptual scheme. And the elderly care or aging issue is not only the single maybe sector issue. We have to consider what's the kind of the mixture or matching or collaboration of the different sector of some government, also or not only government, like the community, maybe preparedness also there. So matching up on healthcare system and housing and all long-term care, also community power, also generate kind of a local integrated healthcare system for elders could be implemented in each division of the area of Japan. I would like to share one example. Do you know the Harajuku in Tokyo? It's a really famous town for the younger generation. Here. The many younger people is gathering here. And this town is really interesting, the shops and entertainment and also some facility for the younger. So every young people want to be here. So we call the Harajuku is really nice town for the younger generation. So in similar way, the kind of the Sugamo town in Tokyo is one example of the elders. Someone called that town is a grandma's Harajuku. Grandma's Harajuku. Downtown. Because this town is nearby the kind of the temple, Buddhist temple. So some elders stop by the temple to wishing that they are healthy or their family is healthy, right? And after that, they go to their shopping around and enjoying their life. So that kind of things is, gathering people makes kind of the more people, so making some community. So there are kind of experiences regarding that kind of matter is there. So when you consider kind of the example of the community development, so we have to consider the factor, what kind of the how to entertain or how to attract the elders. Maybe point of view, the marketing, maybe awareness is also should be important to implement the community development. In other words, the kind of needs or demand for the elders also changing maybe by time or by maybe acceptance of the some maybe human lifestyles. For example, how to say, some statistics shows the late percentage of the people who can manage the computer or smartphone for elders is increasing year by year, really dramatically. So we have to think about kind of the, how to say, changing the lifestyles, and also we have to stimulate kind of to implement the human oriented or user friendly computerized system. That kind of innovation would be useful to implement the aging society implement. I would like to comment as there are several examples of the maybe the kind of the innovation technology may assist to the aging society. We put the three figures. That one is a kind of special speaker system to emphasize kind of some specific frequency things. Maybe most of the elders is really difficult to recognize kind of specific frequency of the voice. So to put the speaker to emphasize the voice of talking. So along with that kind of devices, so communication with some shop person or doctor is also going smoothly. And as you can see, the kind of the powered suit may assist kind of the maybe physical disability or physical difficulty of the elders can assist. And also, as you maybe easily understand, maybe autonomous driving technology also may assist that kind of things. So this is one schematic image of the future aging society, which is written in the one researcher on the Tsukuba University. And this one is a typical image of the aging society. So fewer working population is really work hard to care the elders. So by implementing kind of maybe appropriate technology or innovative situation, we may have kind of mitigate the kind of burden of that kind of working population, and makes us some kind of the smoothly or maybe wealthy, maybe aging society can be done. So furthermore, you can see the kind of this grandma wearing the powered suits, then by assisting with the powered suits, she can work hard than younger people. And that lady wearing the AR goggles and to assist kind of the maybe memory loss, but because of the dementia, to generating kind of the supplemental data is on screen and assisting the working. So the technology may lead to the kind of maybe to, how to say, to changing the border of a caregiver and a caretaker. So sometimes if we that kind of information there, kind of maybe elders may be more independent than before and works more. Yeah? So I would like to close my presentation to introducing my short story, which is based on the experience in Sri Lanka, where I work with kind of a public research and there. So I have the counterpart in Sri Lanka University. She is a medical professor, and she implemented the first geriatric ward in Sri Lanka to take care of the elderly hospital care. So now the current situation, the aging in Sri Lanka is around 10%. That's not so high still, yeah, but maybe increasing rate is really fast. So be prepared. So she also implemented kind of the special clinic to not only the health checkup or treatment, but also to inclusion or implementing a social activity with them. So through that activity, I have found one female elderly people is engaging a volunteer activity for that clinic, which assists kind of other patient activity or other patient then assistance. So I have found her face is getting brighter day by day, and maybe at the same time, she also have a patient and have a symptom of a kind of the chronic maybe illness, also coming to the joint pain also there, but her symptom also getting relief along with kind of the participation of the program. So that things reminds me that I realize the elders population, when they find the worth of living, so they can live more vividly, more actively than sometimes before, or sometimes as a more younger generation. So I'm concluding the talk, improving the situation of the aging society by introducing innovative technology is a really key point to achieve the fruitful society, aging society. But I would like to say the technology should be needed for having more worthful life for elders. So last word, I strongly agree on what is respectable is to find a life worth for living. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Obayashi. Very pleased and honored for the next speaker, Ms. Jinakun Rojananan, Senior Advisor from NESDB. And so we'll turn our attention to the Thailand case. Please.
Good morning, distinguished guests. First of all, I would like to thank Kenan Institute Asia for invite my office, the National Economic and Social Development Board, to share the view of Thailand aging society. For the situation of aging society, actually we has been an aging society since 2005, and the ratio of elderly continue increase, while the children ratio keeps on declining because of the low fertility rate. And Thailand will be an aged society in the next 3 years and will become a super age in 2036. So we know that we will have a big proportion of the elderly. So it is quite necessary that we should look closely to, oops, what's wrong, sorry. Okay, just look closely of what is the age group that a big group of elderly is fall into that age group. And fortunately that we still have half of the older group is called the young old, which means that we will have some opportunities to let them to be have activities to contribute more for the economic and social. However, we may need an innovative policies to attract them to have activities in the society. The situation of the characteristic of the aging society, if we look at the age group, we found that the elderly groups, they still lacks of preparation, especially for the finance. only 34% that have adequate saving, but 65% they said that they don't have adequate saving for their living. However, for the active aging, they still work around half of them here. So we know that the elderly said that they don't have adequate saving, and half of them still work. So what is the source of money that they get? The main source is come from the family support, followed by working. In the report on the monitoring of the National Elderly Plan, the third round, the monitor takes around 2012 to 2016. It shows that there are still some gaps about to make the elderly group live in a good quality, because it shows that only 37% of the population has an old age security, and many public places still lack proper facilities to let the elderly go out of their home to participate in the social activities. And if we foresee that we will enter in the aging society soon, so how many percent of our people that realize that what is aging society and what should they prepare before they enter into that age society? And we found that just 33% that they have knowledge and be prepared for that. So there's still a long work to do to enter into the next stage with a good quality of life. So what is the impact of the aging society to Thailand? My office has calculated by using the national transfer account, and we found that people just the age between 25 to 95 that have income more than expenditure, so this is a surplus, and the rest they have expenditure higher than income, so it occurs the deficit. For the elderly, what do? They fulfill this gap by using the income from their assets. The second source is come from their working. The third source is from family, transfer from their family, and public just spend only 6% to help them fulfill this gap. However, the estimation of the welfare for them still continue increase, so it's quite a challenge for the finance policy how to be sustained if the situation is still like this. Besides the impact on the elderly, for aging society, it has impact to all age groups, as many participants, many presenters have mentioned before. So the impacts maybe for the shrinking labor force, or the revenue might not be adequate to allocate to all age groups, or increasing healthcare and welfare costs. This is the matters that we have to take into consideration as well. So what is the policies that we doing with the aging society? We has taken the aging society as one issues to be considered before we written the constitution. And after the constitution has been launched, there is a national strategy, and to formulate the policies, we cascade from the broader one into the narrow one to make sure that there is a policy that covers that group. And for the national strategy, there are two strategies that involve with the aging society. One is human development, and the second one is how to reduce the inequality. And the measures that related to that aging society is involve social one, health, income security, and living environment. So innovation, not just what the public sectors provide for the aging society, private also provide they expand the retirement age. They also grouping as a network and try to create what is the appropriate job for the elderly. However, we are in this conference to think about the next gen aging, and a lot of us talking about the technologies, a lot of us talking about the innovation, talking about the AI, talking about the robot. So I think that for the next gen, we already know what we are doing at present, but what's next gen should have. So I got this picture, and I think that this is quite inspired me to live longer, because this man, he becomes a model at 82. It's quite popular in the social media. And this one, oops, he loves cycling, and he hit the record after he's 100 years old. And this lady, she loves yoga, and she's still a teacher, even she is 100 years old. So I think that the next generation is not just get well-being living, but they should have a better living. It means that they will live with passion, not just live for living. So I think this is a challenge that we have to think. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenan. We will continue with the Thailand case study with Dr. Jirapon. Please.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Kenan Institute, for inviting me to give a talk today. Today I'm going to present as a representative of Thai Health Promotion Foundation. So I think after we listen to Kun Jinangkun, the information about Thailand, I feel kind of something that I could skip. And when I look at this room, I found that more than the majority of the audience here are Thai. So I think some of the measures and activities we already know. So the topic that I'm going to cover are 3 parts. The first one that I'm going to go quick, that is the transition, Thailand in transition. And the second one, I think this is quite the timeline. I wrap up the chronicle of activities that happened in Thailand during the past 30 years. And the last one, I will pick some of the significant or important activities that I would call it the milestone of activities that we respond for aging population in Thailand. So this pyramid, population pyramid, I think we can see that the structure of population in Thailand has changed significantly during past 30 years. We are one among the fastest growth of aging population in the world. We are in the top 5. And we became aged population since the year 2005, and in another 3 years, only 3 years, we will become complete aged society. So in year 2021, not very long, only 3 years. And in another 13 years, we will become super aged society, the same percentage as Japan. So we have to think carefully how we can give the response to the increasing number of aging population in Thailand. So let's look at the chronicle of aged care in Thailand. So I will start from the year 1980, since this is around 30 years backward. Before 1980, actually in Thailand, we already have the first institute service, which we call home for older person or Sathan Songkra Kon Chara. The first home for OP was established at Bangkare, and after that, during that time, the home for OP, the purpose of building that home for OP aimed to serve as the welfare shelter for those poor older person or those older person who could not live with their own family. And in year 1981, there was the first World Assembly on Aging in Vienna. During that time, the government also sent the team of representatives to attend that meeting. After that meeting, we have the long-term plan, which we call the first National Long-Term Plan of Action for Thai Elderly. This is the 20 years plan of action. And I would say that during the year 1980 to the year 2000, I can call it the slow pace of a response of tackle with the issue of aging in Thailand. There are some significant activities or measures during that time. For example, the elderly club. The first elderly club was settled in the year around 1988 to 89. This is a policy from Ministry of Public Health to encourage older persons to have activities together, such as exercise, recreation, or religious activities. And also, during that time, most of the welfare, offer for the older person who are in need of financial situation. So this is the free healthcare for OP and welfare fund for poor OP during that time. And also the community service center also set up in the year 1999. After the year 2000, we will see a big movement, which I will call the faster pace of response to aging population. So during the year 2000, there was a second World Assembly in Madrid, Spain. And after that assembly, we also, renewed the second plan. So after that meeting, we also have the second National Long-Term Plan for OP, which this second plan is very important. It's the strategic plan for moving with the older person issue in our country. And after the year 2000, you will see there are many measures, activities, and policy happen during this period of time. The Elderly Person Act was legislated in 2003. The Home Care Service Volunteer also set up by Ministry of Social Development and Human Security. The old age allowance also started at 2009. And during the time of 2000 to now, I think it's very important. It's a big movement of long-term care development in our country. You will see that during this period of time, there are lots of activities. For example, Center for the Quality of Life Development and Occupation, National Saving Fund, and the important ones also. This is the National Long-Term Care Strategy under the NHSO, which provide the budget to give the funding for community to take care of those frail or dependent older person. So I will pick some of the measures and activities which I think is very important to show you that this is something that we are quite good in moving towards aging issue. The first one is the health promotion and health prevention. There are two kinds of activities that are quite outstanding in our country. The first one is elderly club. Even though elderly club was started since 1980 something, but it's still, quite a good measure or activities. Most of the elderly clubs were active at health center, at community center, temples and hospital. And right now there are more than 23,000 elderly clubs all over the country. And the second activity is school for older person. This is the development of elderly club. It's quite start to be popular during these past 5 years. And right now there are more than 1,000 schools for older person all around the country. And you may have the question, what's the difference between elderly club and school for the OP? The elderly club is more kind of like, not quite have rules and regulation for older person to attend the activities. But the school for OP have the more solid curriculum and activities that require the older person to attend the school. And most of the school for older person were supported by local government or might be elderly club or the NGO. The other part that I think is quite significant is the health screening. This is the measure run by the Ministry of Public Health. Right now, there is a policy from Ministry of Public Health to have the older person in the village or in community to get the health screening by using ADL screening. This is the way that we want to categorize older person into 3 groups: the green group, the yellow group, and the red group, which I think most of Thai people know. The reason why we have to categorize this older person to be in the group because the activities and measure gonna be direct to the group of the older person. The other important things that we think is quite outstanding for the health screening is the NCD screening, as well as the geriatric assessment. For example, the forest assessment, the cognitive assessment, incontinence assessment, and nutrition or depression assessment. These are kinds of basic assessment that the primary healthcare personnel can do the screening in the village. And the last one is the flu shot. Also, the flu shot is another policy that I think is quite important for health promotion and health prevention for Thai older person. And the newest or the latest policy from the Ministry of Public Health is the health literacy. Right now, we think that if you want to keep those older person to still, active and healthy, you have to help them to be literate in taking care of themselves. So this is a new policy, and we still have to find a way how we can improve their health literacy in the future. And the other part that I think that also very important are partners in helping in tackle with aging population in Thailand is the NGO and the private sector. We have the old player, for example, like Thai Red Cross, the Help Age, the FOPDEP. They are very active in working with aging issue in our country. And during past 5 years, there are more private sector that are interested in this issue. But from my personal view, I think this is a very crucial and important part to help in facing with aging population in our country. And the second one that I would like to point, which I think it's also very significant for Thailand, is the improvement of care for older person. So right now the Ministry of Public Health also, put emphasis on the care system for older person. For example, in acute care and intermediate care, there was a policy nearly 10 years from the MOPH to encourage all the public hospital to set up a geriatric clinic in all, public hospital in all level. And also we have the policy of Green Line, the fast track for old people at OPD, as well as the human resource development, the training, the capacity building of the health personnel. It's very crucial. And the last one, during past 3 to 4 years, I saw many innovative cares and innovative services for older person, which I think this is the most important part, since now we only have less than 15 years to become super aged society. And another one is the long-term care. Long-term care as well as the palliative care. This is also one of the outstanding measure from the Ministry of Public Health. Right now, we have the long-term care system that get the funding from the National Long-Term Care Strategy. And the long-term care focus on the frail elderly person, as well as the chronic illness with complication. And the other group that is also increasing rapidly, that is the group of dementia. And also another measure or another policy from the Ministry of Public Health that is very important, that is the family care team, which also, correlated with the long-term care policy. So now I will come to the part of my work at the Thai Health Promotion, which I think is very important. Thai Health Promotion Foundation is an autonomous state organization. SSS, I will call SSS. SSS plays an important role in health promotion in all age groups, including elderly people. SSS supports many projects to strengthening building capacity of older person and community. SSS also support in building knowledge, raising awareness, social mobilize, and advocate policy related to aging issue. In addition, the area-based project supported by SSS as the healthy community. Right now there are more than 2,000 communities, which more than 300 communities pick aging issue as the areas of priority. So I will share with you about my project, which I get the support from SSS. This is the project to improve quality of life of older person in Bangkok metropolitan area, which the reason we pick this issue because in Bangkok area, we have nearly 1 million of older population. And this project, we set up the community working with quality of life development in 20 communities all around Bangkok, in Nong Kham, in Lat Krabang, in Hoi Kwang, Wang Thong Lang, and in Krong Tei. So there are, several communities that we work with this project. There are 4 sub-projects in this quality of life development. The first project, which we work in Hoi Kwang and Wang Thong Lang, we work with older person and community leaders, as well as the Crown Prince Bureau property, since the area that we work is the land belong to Crown Prince Bureau property. So that is the first project. And the second and the fourth project, we collaborate our work with Bangkok Metropolitan Area Administration. So we work with the health department and health center in the area. And the third project, this is the project that we work with improving quality of life of older person who live in a high-rise building. So this is the building in Krong Tay area. Since this is the trend that we saw that there will be more and more people who live in the high-rise building, and we want to see how to improve their quality of life as well as their environment in living. So these are the example of my work with SOSOSO. SOSOSO also support many projects to raise awareness of people in Thailand about aging population, and also support innovation. For example, there are a number of applications to help older person to use this application to improve their knowledge and health. And also, this is the example of SOSOSO supporting project. Is the musical band, which most all of the band players are aged more than 60. Yeah. So I come to my last slide. Here are the challenges of the aging population in our country. There will be more demand of care, both health, social, financial, care for older person, and how we gonna prepare for aging, not just for the aging group, the pre-aging group, the younger generation, and for those who become elderly, how we can better their living, because they live longer. So we have to think about the income, the re-employment, the welfare services, the environment, engagement and connection. And also, from my point of view, I think human resource development is still in need. It's very crucial part. And the last one, I think this is the part that we come to get today. The topic of our meeting is the NextGen. So I think, we have a very short time to tackle with this problem, serious problem. So if we use just the basic services or the kind of public services, it might not be, fast enough to tackle with this problem. So we need the research and development. We need high innovative or strategy to tackle with this issue in Thailand. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Yurapong. We'll have a short discussion. I know some of you may be getting a little hungry. We've had a lot of great information from both the Singapore, Japan, and Thailand. I'd like to first start with a question for Singapore and Japan. Obviously, you've been dealing with the aging issue for quite a long time. What are some lessons learned that you can share with our Thai colleagues? What are some of those challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those?
Like I've mentioned earlier, I think for us one of the lessons learned is that when we want to tackle the aging issue, we really need to take a whole community, a whole society approach to tackling it, because aging is, it affects every aspect of life, so to speak. And I think the other issue is really we need to be very clear what is that vision that we want, what is that goal, the outcome that we want to see. I think if we can clearly define that, then what the work, the plans, what we want to do would follow much easier, and it won't be so fragmented, because I think in the past what we've done is we've looked at it from a more need perspective, right? There's a need that is remedial. You just want to patch the holes. You want to, close the gap, so to speak. But I think to look at aging, it is more than just closing service gaps, closing the gaps for needs. It's really about you know, we've lived another, we are, you know, we're so successful. We now all live perhaps another 20 to 30 years more of life. And it's a whole new life stage. And what is happening in that life stage? I think we have no answers, or we are not, don't have clear answers to that yet. And so it's really a whole development of a whole new life stage, you know, and for another 20 or 30 years of life. So that's why we need a whole society approach, and we need to have clear goals and vision. I think that for me, and I dare say for a lot of my colleagues in Singapore, that's really something that, you know, that we've learned. Yeah.
I would like to give one point regarding the one question. How do you think that whether the elders population is a burden of your society or not? So as far as you consider about the elders is a kind of a burden, so maybe we may stick to the idea about we have to consider about some kind of service giving from the society or something like that. So, but if we beyond that kind of concept, maybe the elders also maybe kind of how to say, the body of the society. Then how do we maybe effectively use that kind of maybe knowledge and the experiences, and also sometimes kind of how to say, maybe many items can be given from the elders. So maybe the cooperation and also the coexistence of the elders should be important when the excessive aging will go on. So that's my point.
Thank you very much. Very good point. For our Thai colleagues, how, you know, we have lots of measures here, as you mentioned, and policies. How can Thailand make elderly more inclusive in society? What are some measures we can take moving forward?
Actually, we already take the elderly in the society. As I mentioned that for the private sector, they already expand the retirement age for their staff. And in for the public, actually we set up some club. I mean that at my office, we call it the brain bank. It means that for the government official that after they retire, they can register into that brain bank. And if some office or some communities, if they want some knowledge people in particular area, they can ask or open our website to see whether which one that quite direct to their needs, and then they ask them to help them in the community. This is we try to engage all age in the society, because I know we know that in aging society everybody should be counted, because human resource is very important in this kind of society.
Great, thank you. Please, Dr.
Yeah.
Ju.
So I think about our Thai value of older person. I think it's very important. Our country, actually, we have the very good value of taking care of our parents, right? Katanyu Katavedi. This is something that ingrained into our belief, our value, and our life, and how we can maintain, the younger this concept to the younger generation, to view older person as an asset, as wisdom. So this is something that I think is very important.
Thank you. Before we adjourn for lunch, do we have any questions from the floor? Just raise your hand. You'd like to, any questions? Martin?
Martin Wensky-Stalling from Chiang Mai University Science and Technology Park, and also involved in a medical center for mainly elderly Chiva care in Chiang Mai. I've done some research projects on aging in place and also providing innovative rehabilitation services. And I'm very glad that you mentioned about the Thai values towards elderly. And as a foreigner, I'm German, but I've lived here almost 30 years, so some people say, "Good bit patet," so I think you're absolutely right with the values, but I'm wondering whether we have to tweak them a little bit, because maybe we are a little bit overprotective in Asia in general of elderly, and you know, oh, they could get hurt, so they stay at home, or oh, they may not be able to keep up with the younger people. I'll give you an example. We ran an art therapy class, and somebody took their 82-year-old mother, and then she was quite shocked that there were 40-year people, and there were also some young students, and she was, could my mom keep up? But her mom really absolutely enjoyed it. So she was a little bit overprotective and anxious in the beginning about mixing in a sort of combined art class to stimulate her, and so maybe we need to, you mentioned the word get rid of age in society or something like that. So maybe we need to rethink a little bit what the word Gantanyu means or so, I don't know. Thank you.
Please.
Yeah, I do agree. We actually have a term to describe that. It's called surplus safety. That term came from the Eden Alternative Movement in America, actually, from Bill Thomas. So it's called surplus safety, like you said, overprotective, you know, and I think that, to me, that is part of changing the mindset, you know, and the changing the mindset is really across all aspects of society, including the caregivers themselves, the professional caregivers as well, you know, so it's really part of delivering that person-directed care and you know, impacting, changing mindsets of people who has anything to do with older people. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to respond, just a quick thinking that actually one of the important measures for the aging society is we try to encourage the universal design. It means that the design is for all age. So that means the younger in the family, they will not worry much about their parents going out because of the transportation is available for the elderly. And also right now, I think that there is a private sector that provides a taxi for the elderly. It means that they will have information about the customers to what should be aware of their customers. There is that kind of business in Bangkok already. So I think that more and more elderly will go out to participate in the society because of the facilities that more convenient for them to go out.
Great, thank you. Any last question? If not, let's give our panel a round of applause.
So, Richard, but final questions, because there is some audience that want to ask the questions. The first questions, except for money, financial plan and technology, have you ever explored what are the key factors that make the elderly happy, or what key factors of his plan and how they prepare to achieve the better quality to live, and what do they and what they owe? How old are they? And also the second question, for people who can't access public welfare, what spatial they plan to handle this problem? How they can cope with this problem if they can't access the public welfare?
We'll have a session in the afternoon about finance and such, but if there's any comments on factors that
actually, when we're talking about the aging society, we just not look at the part of social dimension. Actually, my office has to look at the holistic way. So in a way that we have to provide welfare or other service to the elderly. On the other hand, we have to think about how we can get the money to support that one. So you will, for the Thai population, for the Thai people, I think you're familiar with the words Thailand 4.0. That means we have to restructure our production sector. Otherwise, we will not get enough income to taking care of the aging society. We try to restructure our production sector to be more innovative, to get more income from the new product, from the research and development. So, as I mentioned before that, to think about the macro policies, we has considered the aging society in that already. So at this moment, I cannot think out of what is exactly in need of the elderly. But as a macro, we concerned about that economic, like they should get jobs that are appropriate for them. They should have rights to participate in the social or in the society. They should have living standards that appropriate for their physical, and also they should live in a good environment to have a well-being living. That's just the 4 dimensions that we think that we should provide for the elderly. But for in-depth, maybe in the afternoon, they will talk more about these dimensions.
Yeah, well, some years ago there was a focus group, focus group done amongst, I can't remember how many older people, quite a substantial number of older people asking what they want, what they think is important. And the 2 things that came up very strongly, one was healthcare, that having the kind of healthcare, being able to access the kind of healthcare that they need is important. But the other one that stands out a lot was connection, that they want to be connected. You know, that was very, very strong. You know, that message from them that what they think is very important for them is actually connection.
Great, thank you. I think that's an excellent point to end on. And thank you again for the panel. Please give them another round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.